I think this concept of daring to do what others may shy away from is really at the root of what I admire the most.
And it starts with leadership. It starts with the founding president, of course. John Rose has been a brilliant leader of this organization, but this organization is far more than its brilliant leader.
If you think about how much EWI has done in 30 years or in any period over those 30 years, you'd have to assume that this organization has the feel of a group with hundreds of people. Some of the other institutes that operate the way we do would have literally 10 times our staff. And yet somehow, year in and year out, this institute with a relatively small core staff manages to accomplish great things.
Every organization gets down to the team. Outstanding people, very dedicated to the cause, very bright people who want to make this world a better place. And so it's energizing to be around them.
It was not just a coffee club. It was not just, okay, let's all get together, let's meet, talk about it, and forget about it.
Because it has an underpinning of what other institutes do, that is, of the serious work in policy, thinking through of the problems. But what it does is translate that into ways in which you can act on the ground. And that is unusual.
I think the kind of defining characteristic of the Institute is innovation. And that's a process of constant learning.
It is amazing when I think about the directors' meetings 20, 15 years ago, what we discussed at that time and what we're discussing today.
5 years ago when I got involved in the board, or 6 years ago, we never would have thought about cyber as being a real problem. But here it is, and EWI is leading the charge.
I think in part EWI is always somewhat ahead of the curve in terms of looking at what's coming and how they might be able to respond.
EastWest Institute has had a great 30-year run. And again, we're an entrepreneurial organization, we're small, we move quickly, we adapt, and as the world changes, we change.
What keeps relevance is when you can discern, identify, delineate where those difficult divides are happening, where things are stuck, where this trust building is needed, and you go there.
And so I think you get kind of the best of both worlds. It lets EWI go after, decide that they want to move into China, when any kind of rational analytic approach would have said, your core is Russia, you don't know anything about China, how could you possibly make that transition?
The Institute was able to overcome many of the skeptics who thought, well, you know, this institute really has its history in the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, and what can it bring to the challenges of the Middle East, or what can it possibly do with regard to China?
The highlight for me so far was working with John and leading the party-to-party conversations with China. But to be able to take the Republican Party and the Democratic Party to China to meet the Communist Party and spend 3 days in Beijing in the guest house and meet the whole leadership of China is a huge honor.
The Institute, without much prior experience or relationship, was able to quietly but quickly establish very high-level relations of trust with Chinese leaders.
And so two big bureaucracies for 30 years have tried to have a relationship. They couldn't figure out how to do it. It took a little entrepreneurial group like East West to basically run around, link them up, and make it happen.
The thought that you can go beyond formal discussions with people who are usually used to only formal discussions inside of a well-planned sort of military to military, government to government, or foreign ministry to foreign ministry environment is sometimes quite revolutionary.
Many organizations do or try to do the kind of top-down work that EWI is engaged, but the Institute also works from the bottom up. It's always had an engagement with civil society, with citizens groups, with local issues.
That, you know, you get the actual feedback from the people who matter, not what policies that you want to sort of force down their throats. I think that was very important.
The Institute really has become an important important organization in the world, trying to be intermediary between countries, trying to help out where there is a difference of opinion.
It's basically bringing people together to solve problems before they turn into fisticuffs.
Where the divides are less important, you let others take over, and where all of a sudden they become somewhat intractable and nobody wants to sit down and dare to look at them, you move there. And that's what the Institute has done.
Can I tell you what we'll work on the next 10 years? I cannot, because no one can predict the future, but whatever issue is out there that is unique, that needs an entrepreneurial group that's focused on really making this world a better place, EastWest will play a role there.